Yo, what's going on, guys? Today I was going to be showing you some beginner's tips into getting into Star Citizen, and I know there's a lot to take in with this game, so I'm going to start with the most simple stuff possible and just work my way up. The first thing that's very important is knowing how to interact with things in the world. If you hold F, it's going to bring up your cursor like this, and you can be able to interact with pretty much everything in this game. When you first start the game, you're going to most likely start off in a bed like this. If I'm holding F, I can interact with it. I can lie down or I can sit. So on door panels, it works the same way. You can hold F down and then you can click on it and it'll open the door. Another way of doing it is you can also just tap F. So once the door closes, I can demonstrate that. I'm going to look straight at it, tap F, and it's going to interact with it the same way. Also, while you're holding F, you can use your scroll wheel to zoom in and out. Also, you could click in the scroll wheel and this will lock the screen so you can be able to easily click on things and scroll up and down without it zooming in and out all the time. So let me show you some simple interactions with this. Like, I'm going to be going down to the lobby here and I'm going to go get something to eat and something to drink since it looks like my guy is kind of hungry and thirsty. Since I have a helmet on right now, I'm going to need to take my helmet off. So you can press the I key and that will bring up your inventory screen. I can grab on whatever piece I want on my body and take it off or move it around. So in this case, I'm going to be taking my helmet off so I can eat. My guy's in pain right now because yesterday I ended up getting into some trouble and I have to get some medication. So I'll be getting to that in a little bit. So here's one of the food courts right here. You can interact with almost everything here. So like there's the water here. There's the drinks on this side. So if you're holding F, you can see everything that you can click on pretty much. So if I wanted to, I could say, okay, I'm going to go ahead and buy this for 3 USEC. Oh, it ended up throwing it in my local storage. And the local storage is something you're going to see in every main city or base that you end up starting off at. And this is where you can offload pretty much all your loot. So there's several ways of interacting with this. I can click on it and then drag it over to my hand like this, or I can right click on it and see what else I can do with it. Like you see carry, I can inspect it just to look at it. I can drink it straight out, or I can drop the item on the ground. So in this case, I'm just going to carry it. So I'm going to click on carry. Now I have it in my hand. So I can hold F and then interact with it some more from here. So it's going to give me the same menu options. So I can store it into my backpack. I can drink it. I can place it on the ground. So what this does is it shows like an actual diagram of it on the ground, you see? So I'm going to go ahead and drink it. And there it goes. So you took a little sip. I can hold left click to continue to drink. And as you can see on the bottom left, my thirst went down a little bit. So I'm going to go ahead and buy another drink. This time I'm just going to buy it with quick buy, and he's just going to go ahead and grab it. And then from there, I can just drink it. To interact with the mobiglass, which is the whole UI system, you can tap F1, which shows you your vitals. It shows you how much money you have and a couple other things, which I'm not sure if these things are actually working or not. But each tab gives you vital information about the entire game. So for example, the second tab, vehicle loadouts, put new weapons on there, swapping out your weapons and swapping out the paint and the ship systems and all that. You got this tab, the knickknacks. This just gives you information about each planet. So it's almost like an encyclopedia type thing if you're into that. So you can learn a little bit more about the game pretty much. The next tab, Skyline, this is your main map. This gives you more access to just knowing where you are and where you're going. And you can also press F2 to open this directly. The mode trader here, trade money from person to person. So if you had a friend that you were playing with and you wanted to send them some money, you can easily do that through this. The next tab is the contracts manager. This is where you're going to be doing all your quests. There's a lot of stuff to choose from. You can do deliveries, which I definitely recommend having a slightly bigger ship so you can be able to store these boxes. They have the search ones, so there's lost cargo and there's also missing persons that you'll have to find. So these are pretty cool. Investigations is another one where you're doing missing persons things and also just searching for equipment. There's lost in space, or maybe a ship crash landed onto a planet and you got to go to the wreck site. Like in this one, it says search the wreck site. In the beginning, you definitely want to read these so you can get an overall understanding of what the quest is about before you actually go do it, because some of these missions can be really confusing or end up being way harder than you expected it to be. I haven't done the maintenance one yet, but this one's supposed to be about just destroying biohazard waste. Not sure how that works. I'll have to do it sometime. Bounty Hunter is the main one that most people do, and I personally find as the most profitable. And telling these apart is really important, but I'll get to that in a second. Mercenary are kind of similar to Bounty Hunter missions, but they're more treated as repeatables because you'll see the same missions usually in this, which I don't recommend doing any of these because a lot of times they're bugged or they don't display where the enemies are that you're supposed to shoot all the time. So it's so hit or miss on whether or not these are going to work, especially the remove claim jumpers. Every time I've done one of those missions, it'll be like kill 9 satellite dishes and I'll find like 7 out of the 9, but the other 2 is just nowhere to be found. So that's why I don't recommend these, because they could be a huge waste of time. And you should always grab call to arms every single time you log in, because what this does is every time you're killing any kind of enemy target, you will get credit for it. And it's usually around 500 to 1,000 UEC for these enemies you kill. So it's definitely worth getting. And then there's also personal quests. These are a little different. Every time I've read the descriptions in these things, it always seems very sketchy. Like it almost seems like they're like bad contracts to do. Like it's almost like the dark side of the game pretty much. I'll have to come back to this another time to see what these missions are about, but the payouts are really good on these. So going back to Bounty Hunter, it's really important to tell these apart because there's PvE missions mixed in with PvP missions. So you want to be careful that you're not grabbing a PvP one when you're not ready for it. And you can tell by the way the enemies' names are. Since actual players can't space names, that would be the easiest tell as to whether or not it's a PvP or a PvE mission. In this case, it's kind of looking like it's a PvE mission just because of this. You see how their names are spaced out? So they have a first and a last name. Jason Yang, for example. This could be a PvE mission, but a lot of time these pro tem ones are usually PvP, so you gotta be careful with that. Another thing is looking at the type of mission it is. So when you click on it and you see how this one is a wanted Matt Spiker, so this is a PvE mission. You'll see right here risk assessment. It says single seater craft, average support. This means that it's going to be a space combat scenario where you're going to be using your ship to destroy other ships. But then you look at another one like Entrenched Bounty. This one, it says possible armed support under the risk assessment. This means that it's most likely a bunker or a cave. And in this case, if you read the fine lines here, it says the subject is believed to be located at a cave on Aberdeen. So there you go. And in these missions, you'll have a bunch of enemies that you'll need to clear in the cave, or in some cases, it will be a bunker. But with this one, it's probably just kill that one target and that's it. Sometimes it'll be like a kill all quest. Like this one right here, it says evict illegal occupants. This one is in a cave as well. And you can see right there, the cave. Now the fun part, how to get to your ship. First thing you're going to do is try to find one of these kiosks. So if your ship is stored in that station, it's going to say retrieve. If it's not available, they're going to ask you to claim. And when you go ahead and you claim a vehicle, it usually has a time associated with it to file a claim. And this is basically where the insurance system comes in. And when you go ahead and you do that, it will start counting down like this. You can pay for an expedited fee, or you could just sit it out. Usually it's not in seconds, and this will probably be upped as we get closer and closer to launch of this game, and it'll probably end up being like hours depending on how they want to implement this system. But anyway, we're going to go ahead and pull out the Nomad, so I'm going to go ahead and press retrieve. Now it's going to tell me what hangar is going to be placed in. In this case, it's pad 1. So I'm going to go over to the elevator. Over here in the elevator, you can scroll down to see the other hangars. So it has up to 8, and then look, here's the pads. I was supposed to go to pad, I already forgot, pad 1. All right, now that I got to the pad, you'll see the ship there. Always want to make sure you have your helmet on, and the easiest way to tell is you'll see the UI on the bottom right and the left showing you like you see like the drink meter and all that. So that at least tells you that you have your helmet on. Or you could always press F4 and that will bring up the third person view and you can visually see what's going on with your character. Okay, I'm gonna go ahead into my ship. So you're gonna look for your door wherever it's located. If you're on one of those basic ships, then it'll probably be closer to the front, but in this case with this Nomad, it's on the side. So I'm just going to hold F. I'm going to enter the ship. It's going to automatically play the animation of going in. All right, now that I'm in the ship, there's a lot of things you can interact with in here. So like the doors and things like that. And you can actually sit down, like here on the toilet, I could sit on it. Can't really do anything with it yet because they don't have like a peeing or a shitting system yet. But I'm pretty sure that that's going to happen in the future. There's also a bed usually on your ships, depending on which one you get. Like even the basic Aurora one has a bed in the back of it. So that allows you to like log out in the ship, which I don't recommend doing that right now because it tends to be kind of buggy, especially depending on where you log out, which I found the best results to be out in deep space or in orbit or something. You never want to do it near like a space station like I'm in right now, because that could end up just you spawning back in the space station, but then you'll lose your ship. So anything that you had on your ship is going to be completely lost and you'll have to file a claim. You have to start from scratch at that point with the new ship. Let's get into the cockpit now. Same thing as always, press F, click to enter the seat. Okay, now that I'm in, there's a few shortcuts, which I'm going to start with the engine off completely. First thing I definitely recommend is to go into the options and learn the keys for the keybinds. This will help you get fully familiar with the buttons and the things that you can press to kind of make your life a little bit easier while you're flying around. Like the most important things you're going to be pressing is U, which powers up the whole entire system. I, to shut off the engines and to also put them back on. C is the cruise control. This is basically like auto run, auto flight. So and then your ship will just continue to go straight without having to hold W. B, the spooling, which is the quantum drive, you know, the hyperspace thing. The N key is to lower and raise the landing gear. While you're out in combat, one of the most important things is H. This throws the flare so that if an enemy ship is planning to shoot a missile at you, which will start alerting you that you're getting a missile thrown at you, you can press H and the flare will come out and distract the missile so you don't get hit. G is gimbal mode, which cycles between the different auto aim and aim assist type systems in your ship. I would suggest just playing around with it and seeing which one works best for you. If your ship is capable of shooting missiles, you can click in the mouse scroll wheel and it will bring up the missile launching sequence. And then basically it's going to go through this whole process of trying to lock onto the target. Once it's locked, you press left click and then it'll shoot the missile. If you're in a hangar, you're going to have to call the station to be able to take off initially. So what you can do is you can press F1 to pull up the mobiglass, go over to comms link on the bottom left. And then from here, you'll click on friends. And right here, you'll see her L1 Green Glade Station. I can call them up to go ahead and take off. Another way of doing it is on your ship through these monitors. So like, for example, you see mine already has a comms link thing here. So I could call the Green Glade Station and go ahead and press this to go ahead and ask for takeoff.
You are clear to launch.
There we go. I'm cleared to launch and I can just go. You don't normally need to do this if it's an open hangar like this, where you could just fly off. Now that I took off and I got far enough away from it, if I press F4, it will show me the third person view. So I could be able to see my ship. To move the camera around, you can hold Z. And this lets you pan the camera however you want to be able to look around. What I like to do is I like to position my camera directly behind the ship like this. And then you can hold F4 and use the scroll wheel on your mouse to set the distance of how far you want it to be. This is really good for like photo modes in case you want to actually take some pictures and stuff. This is good to remember these things. So now that I took off, I'm going to go ahead and press N to bring up the landing gear. And you'll see it come up. Another way to tell that your landing gear came up is by looking at this menu right here. And you'll see the gear is actually glowing just like these are. So if I press N again, it's going to start blinking like this and then it'll go solid color. That means that the landing gear is down. So I could press it again and bring it back up. If you hold W, you'll go as fast as the velocity meter is like allowing you to. I'm not sure what this system is called exactly, but just bear with me on this. if you scroll the mouse wheel up, it will increase the speed of how much it's like capping out to go. So let's say I can put it to full and it's gonna go as fast as possible in this direction like this. I can also press C to do the auto run basically, and you see how it's locked now. Now it's just gonna continue to fly straight. You can also press X to use like the air brakes, and it will slow a little bit faster, but it's still not as good out in space because it's so difficult for the ship to slow down, especially for the bigger ships that you start flying. Or you can always hold S to go backwards. So now let me show you the hyperdrive system. So when you press B, you're gonna have this menu where it's gonna show all these different places where you can basically hop to. So if I wanted to look around, and let's say I wanted to go down here to crew L5, that's 27 million kilometers away. So that's probably gonna take a while. It's probably gonna take at least like 5 to 7 minutes to travel over to that spot, because it does all of this in real time. So I could technically just fly over there normally without using the hyperdrive, but it'll probably take hours and hours and hours to get there. A way to keep it from having all this clutter and you actually just want to go to a certain spot, like let's say where a mission takes place, you're gonna press F2 and that's gonna bring up the mobiglass map. So I'm over here in her L1. So let's say, for example, I wanted to fly over to, let's say, her L4 over here. I can click on it and then press set route, and it will give me that route right there. So as you can see, there's an arrow now pointing up to where it is. So now I can go to it. It will start calculating or calibrating. Once it's done calibrating, I'm gonna hold B, and then it's just gonna start warping in that direction. In this case, it would probably take me like a good 3 minutes to get there. So I'm not gonna go that far, so I'm just gonna hold B and stop it from doing it. So now that I'm just in dead space where there's nothing here, let me go to a location that I actually want to go to. So I'm gonna go to Hurston. So you can double click on it, or you can scroll in like I did there. Let's say I wanna go into Hurston and go to one of the space stations. So Everest Harbor, here's one right here. So I can click on it, click set route, and now it changed it to Hurston and Everest Harbor. So there's 2 stops basically. And then hold B and go for it. All right, I made it into the planet's orbit. Now I'm gonna find the space station. There it is. Let's go to it. There we go. All right, so now I just want to get close enough to it, and then what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna ask for a landing. So it's gonna be the same process like I just showed. So there it is, Everest Harbor. So I'm gonna go ahead and call them, if it works properly. There it is. Okay, so now landing bay. So they want me to go right there. So I'm gonna go ahead and fly to that spot. I'm gonna use the scroll wheel to get the velocity down, because if you go way too fast, you're gonna end up just crashing into stuff. So I definitely recommend putting it to the level that I put it at, where it's like the 300. You see where it was like at 300? That's a good spot, because that gives you enough speed, but also enough time for the ship to actually slow down. So if I let go of W, you see like it slows down pretty quick. I'm gonna press N to bring out my landing gear. You can see it's blinking on the side. All right, it's down. Now start just descending. So you can tap control to go down like this. And then I just like to press the buttons, just like tapping the keyboard basically, until I get close enough to the center here to land. And then poof, I landed. The thing that I like to do when I land is I like to press I to shut off the engines, because the best thing with doing that is I'll notice that the ship doesn't drift off accidentally, because there's times that you can land on a planet and there's like a little bit of wind or something, and that could set off your ship to actually like fly. So you got to be careful with that stuff. So that's why I usually shut the engines off, just to avoid things like that. Just get into that habit. As you saw, I was kind of low on the hydrogen thing, so that's just like the normal gasoline that you use while you're just flying around. The quant is the quantum drive. So to fill that up, you can press the mobiglass, bring that up, and then under this setting, it's vehicle maintenance service. You can go ahead and restock your stuff. So you see refuel quantum, so I can go ahead and do that for 2 USEC, and then the refuel hydrogen. So I'm going to refill that. That's $1,000 basically. So refill that. I can also repair for $399. Why not? Just do it. Just do all the services. Let it just fill up to full. And you see it says refuel and process do not lift off. So we're just going to wait until it's done. Then you can go ahead and take off and do whatever you want to do. I'm going to go ahead and shut the engines off and go and park this thing. So you press Y to exit the ship. All right. So now to officially park this thing properly, you have to go inside and store the ship. And what storing the ship does is it keeps your ship the way it was when you got it. So let's say even if you have inventory on the ship, it's going to continue to hold that inventory as long as you stored it properly. Because the moment that you hit claim on a ship, it's going to make it so that it's fabricating basically a whole new ship for you. So you don't want that to happen if you have things on your character, or on your ship rather. So let me go over to the lobby. All right, now that I'm in the lobby, I'm gonna go ahead and park the ship.
Welcome to the ASRock vehicle retrieval.
So you see right here, it says store right next to it. If it doesn't show store, that means you didn't properly park it in the center of the pad. So that's something that you have to make sure you're doing when you land. And you also want to hear the guy say, "Thank you for landing and have a good day," or whatever he typically says. So if he says that, then you know you're good. The medical clinic is a really important place. This is where you do a lot of things. If you're injured, or if you just want to fill up your food and your drinking meters without having to actually eat or drink, you can come here and do a patient check-in, and that will give you a room, and you can go in and then just get everything filled up. So I'm going to room 5. Let's go check that out. So over here in the back is the rooms. So where's room 5? This is 5 right here. Go in, lay in the bed. You can strip naked if you want. It doesn't matter. If you want to role play it better, I guess. Okay, so now that I'm sitting in here, there's 2 things you can do. So there's the medical care thing, and then there's regeneration. We're going to start off with the medical care. You see my meters are already starting to fill up right now as I'm just laying in here. But you can go into medical care and you can see if you have actual injuries. Like, you typically won't get injuries unless you like survived like a gunfight, or maybe fell from like from a high spot or something and broke your leg. I don't know. I haven't actually had something like that happen to me, but I did get into a gunfight once and my chest was broken. It was like a rib broke or something like that. So I had to go under the treatments and actually treat that. So it showed an option of paying the bill to go ahead and just get my guy fixed. And I thought that was pretty cool. Now let me show you the regeneration, which is a really important thing. This determines your spawn point. So you can come here and you can set any place that has one of these medical clinics as your home base. So initially my home base was Orison, but I don't like Orison because it's laggy as hell. And that's why I personally recommend that once you fly out into space, you find any space station. It doesn't matter what it is. Just go and find one. Let's say, for example, these are the main places you're going to be going. It's CORSAIR, Microtech, Hurston, and ArcCourt. Those are the main areas where you'll be doing a lot of missions and all that stuff. So you're going to pick a place. Doesn't matter what it is. You just pick a place. So if you get bored of one area, you can move on to another one if you want. All these HER L5 and Crew L1s, these are all space stations, and these are all places you can also store yourself if you want to start off at those places. And the good thing about those places is they have a lot of amenities. So they have like refineries, which you can use those to refine your mining materials if you're into the mining thing. You could also pick up supplies for mining gear, as well as they usually have weapon shops, and they usually have armor shops too. So it's almost like it's a giant Walmart pretty much. Then there's the space stations around the main planets. So let's say, for example, on Hurston is where I'm at right now. They have Everest Harbor. So you'll find one of these main space stations orbiting around each of these planets. So let's say if I wanted to go over to CORSAIR, then you'll find Port Alistair, and there it is. Port Alistair is right there. And you see how Orison is like that circle around it. It's like a little eye or something. That's basically just telling you that's the main city hub of that planet. And then you have the moons around them, like Yela and Daymar. These are places where you're gonna mostly spend a lot of time doing missions, like it'll be bunkers or caves and things like that. And sometimes there'll actually be bunkers on the planet itself. So once you enter one of these main planets, this is where you'll end up getting a lot of quests and all that. Another way to bind yourself to a station that you really like is to come here to this. So it's like an insurance terminal. And here it says regeneration, which you can go ahead and pick this place to be your primary residence. So in this case, I already did it. So my main home is Orison, and I already bound myself to this area. So this is my current regen location. So this makes it so that whenever you die, you'll end up here instead of going back to the main city, which I really don't want to do. And then usually these places have a pharmacy like this, and you can come to the pharmacy and buy medical equipment. So the most important one of all this is the med pen. At least carry 1 or 2 of these things on your character at all times. Because if you get shot, or if you fall from a high distance and end up hurting yourself, sometimes you could end up bleeding out, and the only way to like help yourself from dying is the med pen. So definitely important to get these things. You can also find them on dead bodies when you're doing bounty missions and stuff like that. So that's something to keep in mind as well. So you have a chance out there even though you don't have any. I don't know anything about the other pens, so don't even ask me. So I'm going to leave those alone. There's also this medical device, which I haven't used yet, but you can use that to revive teammates if you're hanging out with someone. You can also use it to heal yourself. So that's another option. And you'll be getting these refill canisters as the ammo for it. And then these lifeguard medical attachments, that's for the mining gun. You can also use that on there. I haven't used it yet, so I don't know how it works. But I'm assuming it's the same process, just like this Paramed medical device. All right, so that's the basics of Star Citizen. I know it's a lot to take in, but once you start getting into the flow of playing this, you will start to understand a little bit more, and you'll want to know more about this. It will start to get even more in depth and a hell of a lot more fun when you know what you're doing, you know? But anyways, I hope this was helpful. Thanks for watching. Leave a thumbs up if you liked the video, thumbs down if you didn't, and I'll see you guys on the next one. Later.